We continue working on the project. In this lesson, we will work with the game archive block. I will show you a method that can be used not only for online stores. Right now, these are products, but in general, what I will show you, this code can be very easily adapted for any post type. That is, if your site has a separate post type for cars, you can pull cars here. Or if it's a site for book sales, but it doesn't use WooCommerce, just a separate post type for books, you can extract it in the same way. In our case, WooCommerce simply creates a post type product, and everything else, we refer to it just like a regular post or a regular page. In the previous lessons, we created the entire structure. For the page, we just need to implement this central block with games and display it here. So let's move to our code. We will need a dynamic block. We can use, for example, an image as a template. This is such a dynamic block. It crawls, it was there, we insert it, adjust it to our needs, change it. The name, we can name it Games Box or Games Filter, since it includes a filter. And by the way, we will make this block, the entire screen will be made into one block. Of course, we could divide it into parts, but I don't see the point. Why output the filter somewhere else as a separate block? After all, it is specifically related to games. So let's move on to the metadata. We change these metadata So, regarding the attributes, we will have the following attributes: title, then the number of posts, and that's all for now. Later, if needed, we can add some checkboxes, toggle, control, to show or hide the filter. This filter to show or not to show. But that's another matter. It's very easy to add. Therefore, I'll leave the count. The default will be 4. Settings, elements, let me set it to 8 instead of 16. I have few products, so let it be 8. We keep the title, remove all other fields. Next, this block will have Ajax, so we need JavaScript code. Let's enable ViewScript. Thus, we will create this file, view.js. So, the JSON block, in principle, we are done. Let's move to edit. Remove unused components. Next, this server-side render, I'll remove it. Probably won't use it. Just put a placeholder. And here I'll show just a placeholder of this kind. This is implemented further. Let's clear these internals. The style files, Sages, are empty for us. And style, we remove everything as well. So the budget is empty for now. Next, we go down to the stove area and register this block. And create a pool B for this block. Launching the compiler. and drag the block onto the page in the editor. And I drag it to the desired position, saving it. Wonderful. Next, we move on to the body. First of all, let's take everything we have in the attributes. We have count, so we will put it in a separate variable count. So we perform a check. If there is something in the account attribute, we display this account. Otherwise, we show 8 posts. And also, I don't remember, we did an integer check there just in case. Let's do it here on the stove so that this value is converted to an integer. And the second attribute that we have there is title. So for that we will also create a separate variable, also using set. Let's see if there is a title, then we assign it to the variable. Otherwise, we don't assign anything. Further down the page, we need to construct this body. So we will have a loop and we need data. So for meta and for the taxon my, let's do it in order. So for the loop, a variable ORCS is created and I will assign an array to it. By the way, right now, yes, let's move on to the next. I have the variable games post and I can get these post using WP query without any issues. I just set the necessary query with the required data. I can also retrieve it using get post, and I already have post objects. This method can also be used, but without it, here it is like this. Yes, this is the second method that can be used, and usually for these blocks, I either use WP query or get. I use it when working with a simple post for you. But when working with a store, I will probably use get products now because it specifically returns objects for the store. And when we create the body on the game page, we use these methods, get price, HTML. If I just take them as post objects, I will then have to convert the post into a product to use this method. Therefore, probably at this stage, it's correct. If I use this construction, so I will copy it. I no longer need this part here. I will pass the parameters directly to the function and pass the next parameter. So the count is already a separate variable. We pass it closer and we remove all this to us. Right now, it's important to simply take 8 posts with the default request, meaning we don't change anything here. In this request, we will then break down the loop. We can proceed as we did in previous blocks, using this and outputting HTML. But I will show you another example where we put all the HTML into a separate variable. Well, let's assume we have a certain HTML variable here. It's empty initially. And as we progress with our code, we will fill it. And at the end, we will simply return it. Like this. That is, you will encounter code for dynamic blocks and of this type. So let's use this now. Let's go through the get post variable. So let's perform a check if it's not empty. Then we show the following. We take this attribute out from here. It will be for the entire block. Like this. Well, I haven't included everything that we select inside and also the closing. This is the container for our block as a whole. Inside, we perform a check to see if we have posts. If they exist, then I will create a container for these posts. I will move up above the container. This games list will indeed suit us quite well. I specifically want to keep the classes so that the styles are preserved too. I understood this here as well, and we close the HTML. Then in this container, we start a loop in this container, but it's already annoying. I click in such a way to move it. It doesn't fill. We start the loop, veric. We iterate over our variable C, and here we select game A, and by auto, for filling, it chose this from the previous block. We will just visually go through to make sure everything is correct there. Seems correct at a glance. Therefore, now on our screen, for our block, you see, we are getting 8 products and all the data is loading. Further, looking at the layout, we have rapier. So let's add this rapier. Like this, and immediately remember to close it. Properly. Next, on this class, we will write several styles. And as we have there Web 16, game result does not have a size. Most likely this property was set at the block level of game result. Here it is, 243. Let's set this property as well. That is, some styles were set at the block level, so they are not inherited here. And besides that, also in meta, this heading you see as well. It was set at the block level because at the level of the global CSS for the site, it is white. So it seems like everything has been neatly transferred. Let's refresh the page once more. Great, now we have what we need next. The next point, we have a separate container for the filter. So we are doing that now as well. So inside our wrapper, we'll do it so that if our heading is not empty, then we will display this heading. And besides on this heading, there will also be some div here for custom sort. We'll also add a certain div class container to this HTML. Like this, then we'll return to this. And if there is no headline, which is unlikely to happen, yes, but we won't show this line at all. And I don't care about this type. I set it automatically because it's in all of them. In the project cameras, there is this default element, a default option in the reads. So I have it here, but it's not really needed here. We'll see. We'll either do it or not. It's important for me to make this filter. So when we get to that point, we'll decide. And besides that, we have a container for the box itself. So the HTML variable. We'll create a div with the class games box filter we'll close it as well. In the end, we'll shift everything so that it's easy to read. This games box filter is not the filter container. It's for the entire box. And separately, we'll have HTML. Div class games filter. And in it we'll have the filter codes and another HTML for the content. Games list for that. And I'll close this closing one right where I finished these games. Right here. I'll just do it like this. And a little bit more. Wheel shift, that's all. Actually, right here. It's better to do it like this immediately. We take this class for it. We'll add the following styles. It will be simply display flex. We see that here the width is 400 and gap 48. Gap of 48 pixels. Line items. Start. Justify content. Well, in principle, justify content doesn't need to be set further inside. Game filter. We'll have a width of 400 pixels, while games list and stop games. Box list. To avoid conflict, since they, as you see, repeat these classes. Let's see if we need this class, because we are creating, and that is, yes, here. I was a bit inattentive. I don't need it. Superfluous. Since inside the check, if we have games, there will be a separate container, and I will be able to attach to this box. And games list. We have it here. I will set the width for it. I will calculate it using calc. This is 100% minus 4 pixels. 400 is sidebar, 48 is gap. And now we will get a body like this. So there's already some image here, right? This is wider, and there's a shift happening here. Let's look at 243.25. Well, here is a container, small. Apparently, the image is much narrower. So we need to set not only the maximum width, but maybe even the minimum width. Or just check the HTML body and add a fix. Well, this way it will be okay. You can do it like this. Great. The next thing we need to implement is to add this button for loading. So I think we'll add the button outside the games list. Right here, it's subscriber will be a div with the class. Here, container. So, double quotes. And inside it, we will have a link. By the way, attribute creep can be removed, but attribute.class is important because we will catch the click with JavaScript. In more. And by classes. On the main page we'll take. So our error is not loading. Let's comment it out. And take these classes and close here. And the second point, all of this no longer has a common container. This button, I won't be able to center it in this container. So I need to add this container that I just removed. After all. HTML. Yes, we will add where with the class. Gamesbox.list located within the main section of the application. And I will close it right here. So, okay, in sys, I remove this style from here and move it to the parent and update. Great, next, I will send this button from the C to the center. Of the display face. And I'll set the width. The button will be larger. Therefore, the link inside will have a minimum width of 300 pixels. So, next, I need data for the filter. We have language and genres in the first position of the taxonomy. Let's retrieve them. Let's go to our block. Again, we'll create new variables. One will be for language, 3 languages. And with the help of the getEms function, we will retrieve these terms. We pass it the languages, taxonomy key. We'll do the same for genres. Just the key. We pass genres. Sometimes this can be done in one line. This way it reads more compactly. You don't have to stretch everything out. It's up to you. Next, we go down to the filter right here where we have the filter. And the first is the language. We do a check if we have any terms for the language taxonomy. But we wonderfully use autocomplete. Check if there is something in the link and it doesn't return an error. Then we create a separate container in this container. I see it suggests select to us, but we don't have select. We have a checkbox and a selector for the year. Therefore, everything related to select can be removed. We will need a checkbox here. Here is a label like this. Then first we will add some h5 with a bold unload. After this label, we will have a loop. We skip languages as language, and in HTML we will have a separate item container. It will have a checkbox with an ID. Next, it will have a name, language term, and a name. We get all these terms that are in the admin panel. Next, the same needs to be implemented for the next taxonomy. For genres, so wonderfully, this platform is already in the form of select day platform. We will also get it, by the way, this is a separate taxonomy for us, so we create a variable and pass it the taxonomy of platform C. Or we perform a check on these platforms. A similar container is created. We create a label, and here it's not a checkbox. We need a select. This we remove. It's a pity we didn't copy the select. Now it's just copy paste. We inserted it. No big deal. Maybe it will suggest it now. So the select is outside the loop. Let's use filling like this. Remove and close. So this selector here on it, the form of the platform stand, is empty by default, generally with empty or by default. And all platforms will already be supported inside. Let's check. So by default, nothing is selected when choosing, which is what we need. Next, the following fields. The following fields are meta boxes. And here, always when we work with meta boxes, we cannot retrieve all these values. That is, making a database query, going through the entire database of meta fields, and selecting by key what the author said there is incorrect. Because if there are 100,000 products, there can be up to 1 million entries in the meta fields. Therefore, this approach is not used here. Usually, when we need to use some meta fields in filters, we set a hard-coded value. Well, for example, if it's a release, yes, we can set it to 20 years. That is, write a small loop in PHP that will generate this field. Let's try to do this now. I'll go up again here, and I will have, for example, some variable years, and I need to set it to 50 years back. But I don't have such a need in the admin panel to take any values, just any 50 years starting from the current year and going back. But 50 years is a lot. Games haven't been developed for that long. So let's take 20 years as an example. Then we use the range function and set the current year. We'll take the current year using the date function, like this, and up to, not the year 2000, but make it dynamic, meaning we'll take the current year minus the 20 years. Like this. And now this variable years will store the last 20 years. Next, we go down to our filter. We're interested in the filter with select, so we copy paste the last select. In it, we have a check for years. I don't know if it's needed here, since we have it anyway. Well, okay, let it be, just in case something happens later. Slug. And by the way, select no longer has this label, so to speak, title. So we remove select, we just go on. And these all platforms can be simply replaced like this, with this value of ours. And for the years, we replace it with release. And here we go through the years. And we will have just I. It's not simply an object. In this just I the same. And here, let's take a look. Here we have it generated for the last 20 years, and with this I will be able to make a composite query later. If they select the year 23, then it will be, it already depends on how I set it. Showing backup of these games from the year 23, or starting from and including 23, 24, 25. And then when we create the query, it will be clear here in principle. Next, we look at the following fields and two more fields, single player and more. And again, these fields will be hard-coded. That is, I know now that there are three publishers, Ubisoft, Rockstar Games, and another one like Naughty Dogs, for example. And I will set them now. And the admin, when adding games, will also fill in specific keys. I will be able to filter by this specific key. This is the only way when we work with meta boxes, specifically for this example. Of course, there are possibilities to create a global variable, even create a field in the admin panel, but that's another matter. We kind of didn't consider this at the stage when we were creating it, and therefore, right now, this is the only way we can proceed. I will create closer and this variable publisher I will create at the top. That is, if I have new publishers added, I will always be able to update them here. And right now I have Ubisoft. And let's add Rockstar Games. For example, here are two publishers. If I want to make it more dynamic, I will move it somewhere into the admin panel. Or it should have been done as taxonomies in the first place. But I wanted meta boxes so that it would be... yes, I opened the wrong thing. So, platform, publisher, and releases. And what else do we have there? Single player. Well, and here is also a field. Yes or no? We add it. Do it using the same structure. Okay, good. And what else is there? Reset filter. So there will be a button that will clear the filter. Let's probably make this container 2, since we definitely have it everywhere. And we place a button element with the type reset. Maybe add some class. Furthermore, all of this is a form. So we need to create this form. Opening. So let's go up in the forms where this filter is created. In this area, we create the form like this. Add a post method to it. The action is empty. We will close this form at the end. And it seems that everything related to visual data is done. There are still some technical data that we will need to discuss. Since we have a load more here, we will be loading. If there are many products and to combine the filter and load more, we need to pass these values. Let's do that now as well. Let's add. So in our form, we will simply add hidden input fields. So, fields for discussion, output, just like I mentioned in one of the previous lessons, when we output something in an attribute, we always use escape. And here's the most suitable way to always wrap the variable count. So if you are going to put any data into attributes within HTML, always enclose it using this function. Okay, I need this post package for Ajax. That is, suppose I want to take English games, and I have 100 of them. But by default, I need to show about 8. Therefore, this value needs to be passed, even for load more. We will make one combined Ajax to make it work. With this and with that, so that everything is actively transmitted together. And it's also important to pass this value. It seems like others don't need to be passed. I don't remember. If something comes up, if something is needed, we will pass it additionally. Well, for example, maybe that filter that we have at the top. So, we have extracted all the data. This concludes the current lesson. We'll meet in the next lesson where we will create functionality for our block.